Nagle place. We're in the Goldie Chapel, and today I'm talking to Pat FitzPatrick, author of 101 Reasons Why Cork is Better Than Dublin. Oh, I'm from Dublin, so Nagle place is many, many things, but it's also a bookshop. It's a performance venue, it's a beautiful museum, it's lovely gardens, but we are increasingly talking to authors and selling their books in our shop. We will be going online shortly. But Pat's book, which we're here about to talk about today, which is 101 Reasons Why Ireland is Better Than England, will be available online and in all good bookshops. Pat, welcome to Nagle place.
It's amazing. It's amazing. This is the nicest interview I've done. It really is. I wish all my interviews could be done in a place like this.
Pat, you were here with us a year ago.
Last Christmas.
It was a very Cork
Jimmy
occasion.
Crowley on the banjo, as I remember it.
Yes.
And it was good because he was in the book as well. It would have been embarrassing if he wasn't in the book, because he was kind of rifling through it, I remember. But Jimmy was in the book, and it was it was a brilliant Cork night, though. And the Cork people were great for that book. And so I suppose I'm hoping now that the Irish people will do the same for this.
So that exemplified 101 Reasons Why Cork is Better Than.
I had to bring out 100. That made it 102 for me. It was brilliant, really good.
But you're looking at bigger stuff now.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your new publication?
Well, you know, the idea came, what will I do after this book? Because I liked writing the 101 Reasons about Cork. It's a nice way. This is more about Cork than about Dublin. This format is more about bigging up the place that's good rather than having a dig at the other. But look, it's the English, so you have to have a bit of a dig, right? And I at the time, the Brexit thing was coming to the boil. I mean, you know, our attitude towards England has changed a lot, I think, in the last 20 years compared to where we were, say, around 2010, where you almost... Like, I remember 1998, for instance, when Michael Owen got that goal, you mightn't remember it,
I do.
Against Argentina.
Indeed.
And I was actually living in Germany with a couple of Germans, French and Italian guys, and they were baying for Argentina to win. But I jumped up and Michael Owen scored. And that was my kind of first realisation that I crossed some crazy line, that this notion of my relationship with England had changed. And then suddenly, here we are in 2018, 2019, after the Brexit vote, and you have Priti Patel on talking about food embargoes for Ireland, and everything's changed. And I thought this is a really good time to really look at the relationship between Ireland and England again. And that's what this book really is about.
Based on in-depth research and the knowledge of...
Yeah, no, I was in England once for about a week. And then
that should do.
My first job actually in England, my first thing I did, pretty much the first day, was I put up Union Jacks in a bar in Victoria in London, because it was the Prince Andrew was marrying Sarah Ferguson, 1986. That'll tell you how old I am. And that was my first job. And I'd been back and forward to England a bit. I know we all know so much about England in different ways. We've all been there, but then the culture, politics, obviously the sport. I mean, you know, they're an adjunct in all our lives. For us, it's the primary. You know, I'm a Manchester United fan. I love English TV. I love English music. So we've all been there in that regard. But you know, right now, I think there's a feeling out there that's time to have a look at it from the Irish point of view, that we've got a lot of things going for us as well, in comparison.
So, other than your flirtation with the royal family, it's primarily prejudice.
Oh no, this is blatant prejudice. And you know, if you go through an education system in Ireland, which could be distilled down to the Brits were to blame for everything, and they took our farms, etc. I mean, which it was. When the education, when I was certainly with the education system that I had, there was a lot of that in the earlier parts of the history lessons. You never get that out of your system, I don't think. You know, it's always going to be in there. So it wasn't that hard. I didn't have to dig too deep.
So the 101 reasons.
Yeah.
What's the best thing about Ireland? What marks us out as a different civilization from the British? Well,
the first one I got in there is Skellig Michael, actually. Chapter 1 is Skellig Michael. And, you know, this is the place we bring English people to show that we're actually much cleverer than them. I mean, Skellig Michael famously, of course, is where the monks went to save Western civilization.
Indeed, yes.
And you know, I'm sure there's elements of that have been preserved. We see around us here now. So that's, and you know, a lot of English people get dragged out on the boat to Skellig Michael and have to listen to the chat about the 800 years of oppression and goes, look at this, right? But Skellig Michael is remarkable. And you know, it's one of those things that even you're awestruck looking at it from the land. And then when you go out there and you realize what went on there and the monks who lived there in the Middle Ages and the work they did, I mean, I just think it's remarkable. I think that's one of my first things.
So that sets us in a sort of classical context.
Yeah, yeah.
More popular culture?
It's not quite popular culture, but it's lifting the finger on a country road. Not in that way, but and I think for somebody who, if you come from...
Finger forward.
Now that's the kind of, the index finger coming up off the steering wheel on a country road.
Yes.
And the first time you experience it, you kind of go, did that happen? And then you kind of suddenly realize these people are waving at me. And it's that hug you get in rural Ireland. It exemplifies what we describe as the welcome and the friendliness, that someone would take a time out to acknowledge.
And you get annoyed if they don't do it, though.
Well, then you have to do it.
They must be English.
But precisely. But then the English people are, it has an effect. It draws people into that kind of Irishness. And, if you look at some place like Kerry, where I think it's actually compulsory, there's bylaws. You get a sore finger particularly if you're on a main road where you're given, and then suddenly you come back into the cities and the finger is gone and you realise.
And so what do they do in the Cotswolds? How do they talk to each other?
You see, this is my research. I've never been to the Cotswolds. Okay. You've lived in England, though. Have you experienced it?
No, I live in London.
Okay.
Country.
You get a finger in London fairly easily.
You get a finger in London, yes.
Yeah.
Now, pubs, there is a different culture.
Well, I think, if you go to a tourist resort or any place around the world, you never find anyone looking for an English pub, right? If people are looking for a pub, they're looking for an Irish pub.
Yeah.
The main reason, I think, first of all, is they don't have carpet. And the second is they don't have slot machines.
Yes.
And as I've said it already, we like to divide up our vices in Ireland, right? So we don't like to gamble in the pub, unless it's with our liver, obviously, and that's a separate thing. But so I think that there's that kind of, we're quite serious about drinking to the sense that, if you look at English pubs have names like the Bishop's G-string. I made that up. But I didn't make up the name. There's a pint called the Village Idiot, for instance, which is a pint of ale you can get in England. I think I like the kind of austere drink thing here where it's called Guinness and Murphy's, and it's named after the fellow who made it, and the pub might be named after the woman who pulls the pint rather than be called the Bishop's G-string. And I love that, and the Irish pubs, there's no question we're ahead on that front.
I think one thing that struck me is you say in England, I'm going for a couple of pints. They think you mean two.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that over here, does it?
No, and you go for a drink here.
Yes.
So you know what it's like, because a couple of pints you might be admitting to a drink problem. Right now you have more than a couple of pints, but you go for a drink here and see where it takes you, or when we could.
Now, one of the things I know you wanted to talk about was Dermot Bannon.
Yeah. I think this Dermot Bannon is kind of that uniquely Irish thing of, on his show Room to Improve, and I've compared it in the book to, the Place in the Sun show that's on Channel 4, where this kind of couple go to just outside Alicante, and the woman is kind of allowing them to choose where they're going to live, and they decide they want to live in the old town of a fishing village where nobody speaks English, and they won't in a horrible apartment. You're going, no, don't do it. You'll be much better off in the retirement village. And Dermot Bannon wouldn't put up with that. And I love that Dermot Bannon has that kind of fury of an Irishman, which is presented in a very nice way. But Dermot Bannon has to get his way, and if Dermot Bannon thinks you're doing something terrible, he'll tell you. And he won't tell you in a Gordon Ramsay kind of way either, which is that kind of aggressive, might I say, English way. He'll tell you in that peculiarly Irish way, which is almost like your mother nagging at you. But and he kind of, he channels the Irish mother actually in the kind of way he nags people. But I love the way he does it, and I think it kind of exemplifies the two countries.
There are many differences. Funerals, I think, is renowned as a difference.
I'm amazed in England that you don't bury people quickly in England. I think it takes weeks.
Oh, it does.
For funerals.
Weeks.
And I was thinking here, imagine the amount of ham sandwiches you'd get through.
Yeah.
It would be like terribly bad for your gut if you eat, because that's the minute somebody dies in Ireland, you start eating ham sandwiches until they're in the ground. I mean, there's no question. People say it. The people who've gone here, we do funerals. There's no question about we have that relationship with death. And I remember even when my own dad died, I always thought it would be a difficult thing to have all these people coming, but there's nothing like the solace of all these people coming up and all of them saying the same thing. Sorry for your troubles.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's a great thing. I wouldn't say it in the north because it could be political, the troubles, you be careful, but you don't know who you're talking to. But I was amazed that kind of, it's a mantra. Sorry for your troubles is a prayer, and it's remarkably soothing. And I think at the moment, it's why when funerals are difficult to hold at the moment, and they're only allowing 25 people now. I think if you had that, I can see why that's such a shame that you can't have the Irish funeral, because I think they're unbeatable.
I think that's one of the stark contrasts I know between the two countries, and I think that is something where we're certainly much more at ease with ourselves, and it's a much healthier way, I think.
Well, we're also trying to find out if we're in the will. Obviously, there's a lot of that going on as well. I mean, let's not write that off.
Now, football fans, you think there's a difference between Irish football fans and English football fans?
Oh, I remember the first time I went to foreign holiday with two buddies of mine. We went to France, and this would have been in the late 80s when the English football fans, I mean, there's definitely a difference, would have been, famously ripping up town squares all across Europe. And a friend of mine brought his Irish passport with him and put it up on the table wherever we went to make sure that. And I think Irish people very noticeably, want to be known as that they're not English when they go abroad, and with good reason. And I'm always amazed actually when you look at a crowd of English football fans. There's always some of them dressed as Norman soldiers. And I'm thinking, They're exactly the reason people don't like you. Like, the first time English people arrived in this country you're in was probably dressed like that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think England has that problem as well. You know, if you go around colonising countries and taking land off people, that's just the kind of things people would tell their grandchildren. You know, it's hard to shake that off. But there's no question with it, the attitude of Irish fans. And, you know, sometimes it can act against us, but we have an incredible desire to be liked. And sometimes you can feel with the English, or a particular type of English person has an incredible desire to be disliked.
Yes.
That's almost a good sign. If the foreigner dislikes me, I must be doing something right. That's certainly not the case with the Irish people, and I think it stands to us when we
Well, I went to the World Cup in 1990, and we had that. We'd go in, you know, they hear the English voice, you know, their language, and then we go nowhere else, and all of a sudden it's come on in.
Yes.
Well, otherwise it was trepidation, you know, maybe there's a
putting on the
Millwall
rake gear.
squad coming in behind us.
No, and back to that pub, I remember the night I was there was Chelsea fans and Chelsea were playing Rangers in a friendly game back in '86.
Yeah, that's too nice.
That's not great to have an Irish guy behind the bar. 3 different people threatened to kill me, and I'll never forget the name of the 2 Alsatians who we had behind the bar, Sheila and Crunchy, because they saved my life that night. If it wasn't for them, they'd have been in over the bar to me. So.
Now, traditional dishes.
I actually Googled traditional dishes, and the one that came up for England was...
Because I don't know what you're going to say here.
Toad
for either side.
Toad in the hole.
Toad in the hole,
Which sounds like, and if you'll pardon me being a bit vulgar, a kick in the ass. But, you know, it's basically a sausage roll. And there's, you know, I always thought, because Irish stew, it's the kind of thing your mother would give you, put it off you. But when you get older, and I actually have one in the oven as we speak, and I'm going home to have it in a minute. Like, Irish stew is remarkable. There is both eating and drinking in it.
Yeah.
When you live in a country like this, which is damp and cold, we have that winter food, which I'm not saying English people don't have great, you know, food and all that, but I think there's nothing you can compare. And even right down to like the other classic dish is the toasted special without tomato. Do you ever notice that people ask for the toasted special, but you take out the tomato?
Okay.
But like, I don't know why they just don't have a toasted special without, but you have the toasted special includes tomato, but it has to be taken out. But I just think that those kind of simple dishes, they seem to be very much in line and very much better. And I think I think it's coming back in now that more people like it. We only get enough positive press to kind of the dishes we have.
So in a very short time, we're about 7-0 already. This is a pretty good score.
It's the home win.
Is there anything you'd grant the English? A sliver, something.
I actually literally put a line from the jam in, the public get what the public want. And when it comes to, you know,
serve them right, basically.
Really, well, rock music. I think if you look at the kind of, you know, and one thing what's remarkable about the English is street culture and youth culture.
Yeah.
And you've probably experienced it, and I've experienced it. And that, you know, Top of the Pops would have guided the early part of all our lives. You can't touch the English for that.
No,
they're
they
remarkable for that. Culturally, you know, they're remarkable at that, you know. But, you know, they don't have any Frank and Walters either.
They don't have any Frank and Walters. St. Brendan. Now, obviously the English don't have St. Brendan.
No,
St. Brendan.
he was sound. St. Brendan didn't discover America. He just went there first, right? Because, you know, there was this thing of, you know, there were other people there when he got there.
He didn't lay claim.
No, the Native Americans. St. Brendan actually left after 40 days on the word of an angel, which is apparently is how the story goes. And, you know, that's sound. He didn't stay for 800 years, for instance, you know, when all the people wanted him to go. He went back home, right? He didn't tell anyone, clearly as well, right? Because no one knew about it, and, you know, Christopher Columbus. But there's a kind of a basic soundness, and you know the Christy Moore song about St. Brendan's voyage and all that, and it does capture the kind of, Eric, lads, we'll go to America, will we? And of course, loads of people have since. But he was kind of, that's kind of sound.
So no raping and pillaging
just
and
a nice
conquering
bit of sound.
and, yes.
Visiting, I didn't discover it. There, you're all here already, and best of luck, I'm going home. You know, that's the kind of visitor you want, early visitor you want. So I put him in the book as well.
Now, you know, I suppose where's the English, the British went out and colonised the world, you know, made everyone follow their rules. We've had 800 years of it here. They're retreating now. They're getting insular.
Yeah.
You know, they're going backwards.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Well, the only thing I'll say is, like, and it's a kind of a lesson for us as well, countries change. There's no such thing as an England or an Ireland.
Indeed.
Right now, we probably look good next to them.
Yeah.
Because we're on this trajectory that seems to be, we're becoming what they were always seen as, this liberal country open to the world and open to kind of foreign influences. But the wheel will turn. And, you know, I'd always be wary of us getting too smug about it in this country as well. That, you know, you don't know what forces can turn a country, and you look at it in England, the wheel will turn, and just as this might be now a good time to bring out a book, having a bit of slagging about them.
We can be smug for the moment.
We can be, listen, enjoy it.
Reasons.
What I would say is enjoy it while you can.
Yeah. So this is going to be a bestseller in Scotland. The Welsh are going to buy it.
Yeah.
The French are going to buy it.
They're on the streets
We're going to
marching
buy it.
for it, yeah.
The Aussies will probably buy it.
Yeah.
The Kiwis will buy it. The Indians will buy it.
The other thing I noticed about the English the English sometimes there's a kind of a self-hatred there in England. They'll probably buy it as well.
They'll buy it too.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Global success.
Grand. Pat, thank you so much.
Thanks, Shane.
Right,
Thank
we
you.
hope this sells out. It's available all over Ireland.
Yeah.
It's available on the internet. It'll be available in the shop here when we open up and on our internet site. So Pat, thank you so much. The first book, 101 Reasons Why Cork is Better Than Dublin, was an absolute sellout for us and a brilliant bit of fun. And I'm sure this will be as well. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Shane.
Cheers.